What's up, college football fans? Welcome back to the Preferred Walk-Ons, a college football show about college football. I'm Jeremy Taché. That's Dimitri Zamaris, who is fixing up our top 25 poll as we speak, working till the final minute for all of you who are watching.
All 17 of our viewers.
Hey, all 17 of you are loyal as heck, and I appreciate it. And so we're back for another week. I guess this is our seventh episode, but
I think
ninth
it might be
week of
ninth.
college football, eighth episode. I'm not sure what it is at this point, but I'm proud of the work we've done thus far and really enjoying it. This week is going to be interesting here on College Football Show about college football, and that there's not a lot of good college football this weekend. There's a few key matchups, a few games.
Yeah,
that before the season would have seemed like really big matchups, and for that matter, even just a week ago might have seemed like really big matchups.
We're looking at you, Wisconsin.
Yeah, freaking Wisconsin. Always Wisconsin. But what we'll do first is we will review some of the slate from last week, and then obviously we'll get into our top 25 poll, which we started last week. Maybe even do a little Heisman stuff for you. And then we'll preview our Saturday six-pack and get to all of our fun games at the end. So we'll jet through this for you guys and give you all the information you need to know as things are really starting to take form. I think this is the time of year where, and this is just sort of an overall sentiment as we get into this, but this is sort of the time of year where we actually, not we as in Meech and I, we've known everything from the very beginning, but
as is tradition.
But where the rest of college football fandom, where all of the analysts, where it is a lot easier to predict what is going to happen as we finally, because these are college kids, finally understand essentially what these teams are and who they are. And so now it's a little bit more set in stone, and that's why those upsets become that much more fun later in the year. So let's just get right into this. The first game we're going to review is the team.
Speaking of upsets
and speaking of teams that, blow everything for everyone, Wisconsin lost to Illinois. Lovie Smith's beard. I actually watched almost every second of this game. So
I was I was on vacation last weekend, so I missed a lot of these games. Mm-hmm. I only saw that Wisconsin lost, like I was at the airport. And so, I'm looking at this. How did Illinois win? They were 2 for 10 on third downs. They had 315 total yards of offense.
Yeah,
and they still won. This is incredible. Wow.
This is one of those statistical anomalies in terms of a victory, because Wisconsin just felt like they did everything wrong.
Right.
They defensively, when there's the quote unquote bend don't break defense, right? It was the opposite. It was they dominated and just broke a couple of times in the spots where they could not break.
It seems like that might have been the theme here, where they made mistakes on offense when they absolutely couldn't afford them. Mm-hmm. And then on defense, they were just brain farting at the least opportunity.
Exactly. And it was just, and when Illinois was making plays, it wasn't like they were making spectacular plays as much as it was.
Holy shit, dude. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but okay. The formula for beating a top 10 team, if you had told me, Sunday morning, if I'd been in a coma on Saturday and you woke me up, you're like, Meech, I'm so glad you're alive. I have something very important to tell you. And I'm like, what is it, Jeremy? You're like, Brandon Peters went 9 of 21 for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And Illinois beat Wisconsin.
Exactly.
I'd be like, I wouldn't even ask about how I got in the coma. I'd be like, what do you mean?
You're right, because it makes
he completed 9 passes and 2 of them were touchdowns, Jeremy.
And it's not like they torched him on the ground.
Their leading receiver had 1 catch for 48 yards and a touchdown.
Right, and that's exactly my point. Jesus of this Christ. Of this you don't bend at all and then just collapse at the worst times. And that's exactly what Wisconsin did. They played. The funny part is, I mean, it's obvious. Wisconsin totally outplayed Illinois.
Yeah, they did.
And
They
for that
did.
matter, I put a little bit of this on the play calling, and that at the end of the game, Wisconsin had the ball and driving, and I believe with the lead, although they might have been, I think it was with the lead at the near the end of the game. If you want to check through the play-by-play, but they threw the ball so much in the second half, and I simply don't understand when you have Jonathan Taylor, and he's been a little banged and bruised, right? But I don't really understand why that was.
I mean, their last
process.
So they're up 23-21 with 3 minutes and 21 seconds left. And on 3rd and 5, Jack Cohn throws an interception.
Exactly.
And that's what lets Illinois win the game, right?
Exactly.
So
right. All right.
Yeah,
so
that is a little suspicious.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I understand that mindset. Look, I get I get playing aggressive. I get playing aggressive, but when you're the top 10 team in the country and you can pin Illinois, who's completed what was probably 7 or 8 passes at the time, right? Not even 6 or 7 passes at the time. And you say, all right, come drive down the field and, hit a game-winning field goal, as opposed to we're going to give you decent field position for you to then drive just a little bit and then hit a game-winning field goal.
And that was the other thing is, so Illinois' passing game had not been, like you said, been efficient.
Right.
If you just run the clock out, even if they run the ball on 3rd down there and get the clock down to like 2 minutes even, and then you punt the ball.
Right.
I mean, 6 of these 7 plays in this Illinois last possession are running plays.
Right. Well, because essentially, which was so funny. Well, and this was the funny part, because everybody in America is looking at themselves going, oh, they're going to miss the kick, because Illinois settled.
Right.
Illinois, Illinois.
They played for the field goal.
Yeah, they got into field goal range, and as soon as they did, they just were like, all right, we're good. And I was sitting here, and I was like, this poor college kid, because college kickers never do they make that field goal.
Especially not on Illinois. Like if you're the Illinois playing the top 10 team.
Right. You're Illinois playing a top 10 team, and Lovie Smith makes the decision like, oh, yeah, we're good. We'll have our kicker hit a game-winning field goal in this much pressure. And I'm sitting here, and I'm
a 40-yarder too, which is pretty impressive.
And there was a no-doubter. And not the best part about it, but a cool part that relates back down here to South Florida is, and I don't know this to be the case as A plus B equals C, but pretty cool thing. And now I'm upset with myself because I forget the kid's last name. But the kicker for Illinois, he is from Parkland.
James McCourt
is from Parkland, Florida, and wears number 17, which I can only imagine is not a coincidence and is out of respect.
Yeah, that seems like it wouldn't be.
And so, as there's timeouts called, and you see the kid warming up on the sidelines, and they show he's from Parkland, Florida, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am like a diehard Illinois fan. I am like dying, really, really, really hoping this kid nails this field. And it was a no doubter. And what an unbelievable moment for Illinois. And Lovie Smith's beard, man. Lovie Smith's beard got some love and attention.
Yeah, it's the attention and love it deserves, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Last thing, and then we can move on.
Deserves.
So Wisconsin was a 30.5-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
They came out to start the game on an 11-play, 75-yard touchdown drive.
Mm-hmm.
That was their first drive of the game.
Yep.
How many people turned it off and were just like, well, that game's over?
Right, until they probably went on Twitter and went, hey, Lovie Smith has a beard and they're going to win. And that was essentially what was happening all the way around the internet. It was amazing. And it's exactly what you expect out of Wisconsin, right? I mean, it's
very fair. You've been saying that since the beginning.
It's typical Wisconsin, man. Well, and it was such
noted Wisconsin hater Jeremy Taché.
Well, it was such an obvious upset. It was such an obvious upset waiting to happen. It was a trap game, and I'm disappointed that I didn't make it my onion hanger last week. But
All
moving
right.
on to game 2.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Justin Herbert, Jeremy,
Kid's
very good.
Kid's a stud.
Jacob Eason finally played a great game too against a really good Power 5 defense.
It's such a shame for Jacob Eason because you're right. This is like the first time ever that he's played really, really well against a Power 5.
This is probably the best defense they've played all season, and this was the best game he's played all year.
Right.
23 of 30, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. They got a lot from their running back. This Ahmed kid, the running back they have, is very good.
Yeah, he is.
Ever since he's been back from injury, he's been excellent. But I mean, you got to give credit to Oregon being down 14 points here and kind of rallying together on the road and pulling the win out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about it when we get to our polls, but I mean,
Oregon.
I respect Oregon a lot as one of the 10 best teams in the country. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame they have that Auburn loss because I think the conversation around them would be a lot different.
Be totally different. It would be completely and utterly different. And for that matter, the conversation around Justin Herbert would be different, which is funny because he's played great, period. Like he's had an unbelievable season. He was good against Auburn, who has a great defense. Like Justin Herbert played better against Auburn than Kyle Trask did. But Kyle Trask played for the more complete football team. And
you and me have talked about how Washington probably has the best secondary in the Pac-12. And Justin Herbert torched them, 24-38, 280 yards and 4 touchdowns.
He was great.
And like we said, again, not throwing to anybody of note. I mean,
that's the whole thing with Oregon, right? Is that they don't really have any that's the thing I think that keeps them from being in that tier. Is that they don't have any dynamic playmakers. They don't have anybody that is, stand out. Of those top 10 teams, they have by far the worst receiving core. By far.
And that's why I think the NFL evaluation becomes so interesting because Justin Herbert and Tua are probably going to be the first 2 quarterbacks taken in the draft.
You would think.
And
so.
it becomes an interesting conversation of, and I know we're a college football show, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
But it's interesting.
But it becomes a conversation of Justin Herbert has done so much with so aggressively much less than what Tua has.
And for that matter, he's played a tougher schedule thus far.
Yeah, 100%. So, and we're going to talk about Tua later on because of, what happened with him. But, I mean, if I'm an NFL evaluator, I don't see why in any way you would have Tua ranked ahead of Justin Herbert from what I've seen personally. And I'm not trying to say I'm just saying, man, Tua has not done anything to me that has been more impressive than anything Justin Herbert has done. If you put Justin Herbert in that offense, in the Alabama offense, I guarantee you it looks very similar.
Yeah, that's where I tend to agree with you. But when we do go back to the Oregon-Washington game here first, because we're going to, I think, start having that conversation a little bit more going forward. And you and I, mind you, I'm down here in Miami. And Miami tank for 2.
Yeah, you're right in the thick of the tank for 2 with it.
Right in it, and it's really interesting because, and just the one thing I will say to that, I think Justin Herbert behind what is the Dolphins' aggressively bad offensive line and aggressively bad skill position players would be able to more quicker, would be able to perform at a higher level instantly than Tua, simply because Tua.
I was going to say, wouldn't you be scared with Tua and his injury history behind that offensive line? Yeah, and Tua low key, that's 2 bad lower body injuries.
Yeah,
and lower body injuries.
And we can get to that part of it, but I just think that's an interesting dynamic. But back to the game real quick, to sort of wrap that up. No, it's cool because that's a proper tangent to have. This is the time to discuss it. The fact that Washington did go up 14 at home, that put themselves in position to really be in a straight shot to the Rose Bowl, right? Jet back up.
It was like we said, both teams had a lot to play for, and they played like it.
And I respect the hell out of Oregon for being able to come back in that situation. Did Washington do a little bit of that, all right, we're going to sit on the ball now thing that happens far too often in big college football games and, for that matter, in NFL games? Sure. when you're a bad team and you're up like that, you don't necessarily do that. You just keep going and you realize, oh my God, we're pulling off the upset. Where with this, you're such a good team in Washington, that's just had a disappointing year, that you play a little bit safe. And that costs them, because you can't play safe against one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And Justin Herbert, to his credit, then came back and diced a great Washington defense and did just enough to win. And one way or
what
another,
great quarterbacks do.
Yeah. And one way or another here, whether Oregon ends up having their outside shot at the playoff, which I just don't see happening, but
it doesn't feel likely.
It doesn't feel like it, even though it should. But and an Auburn win over LSU, which we'll preview later, would help them significantly. But if Oregon's sort of outside shot doesn't happen, Justin Herbert is having one heck of a year, and I hope that the Rose Bowl matchup, whatever it may be, ends up being like as significant as it should be for a team the quality of Oregon, right? Because they've dominated thus far in the Pac-12, and they deserve an opportunity to play a high stakes, great Rose Bowl. Honestly, similar to when Sam Darnold came in for USC, sort of in relief at mid-year. You remember that team I was obsessed with,
right? And then they played Penn State.
They played Penn State, and it was an epic Rose Bowl because Penn State was a great team too. So
you might get Penn State in the Rose Bowl this year too. At this rate,
you're right. So it'll be interesting to see.
No disrespect to Minnesota, of course.
Oh, of course, roll the
go Gophers.
All right, Game 3, Boise State and BYU, some Group of 5 upsets here, right? This is changing everything. This changes everything in regard to the New Year's.
All right, Jeremy, I'm sorry, I got to start this off with I have it as the last bullet point on our little packet here.
It's the most important thing.
It's the most important part of this game. So Hank Bachmeier didn't play for Boise. And Chase Cord really cost them the game with the 2 interceptions he threw. Mm-hmm. But BYU was playing with their third-string quarterback.
Yes.
His name, Jeremy Taché.
Why don't you tell me what his name is?
Is this not the most BYU quarterback name possible? The kid's name is Baylor Romney.
Yes, of Romney descent. Of that Romney family. That Mormon Romney family. That Romney. Baylor Romney, the quarterback at BYU that pulls the upset. It's amazing.
He played great, too. He played great.
It's incredible.
Baylor Romney.
So Baylor Romney and those the Fighting Mormons at BYU pull off the upset. Now, if you're Boise State, and we at UCF can totally relate, right? You're without your starting quarterback, that's going to affect you. But now you're playing a BYU team that's on their third string quarterback. So there's canceled out on the excuse chart, right? Baylor Romney is starting for BYU. You should still be able to win the game if you're Boise State. And what now? Because honestly, the game was back and forth. It could have gone either way. In terms of the game, there's not all that much to break down, but it's more the implications that come after the game, right? Because I have to imagine that Boise State's playoff chances are all but done. Not playoff, but
their New Year's Six chances are out the window for sure.
It feels out the window, and even though you could make the same excuse for Boise here, and that was already going to be one of their tougher games, and then they were playing it without their quarterback, right? I can relate, but on the same token, with how well the AAC has played as a whole, a lot of the overall conference rankings, whether it's Sargon ratings or the SP Plus rankings, a lot of those ranked have the AAC West is better than either ACC conference, right? So that shows where the AAC is as a whole in comparison then to the Mountain West. And
that becomes a thing, right? Where you compare, like, if Boise's one loss ends up being to BYU, and then the one-loss AAC champion, and this is not even considering an undefeated, possibly
App State,
Appalachian State.
And that's another conversation. If they go undefeated, this is the thing we've been talking about. If they go undefeated, or Boise State would have gone undefeated, it's their.
And the biggest problem the biggest problem for Boise State too is SMU's still undefeated.
Right.
Memphis and Cincinnati both only still have one loss. UCF's still there with 2 losses. If they win out, I'm still holding out hope that there's potential.
Yeah.
I mean, they need some.
They need things.
They need help.
Yeah, they need things to break away, of course. But what the most interesting part of it now becomes what happens in terms, because I think Boise State, to me, essentially eliminated themselves with this loss. And even though that's a shame, to be honest, because they were playing without their quarterback, that's the way that this goes, man. We were saying if they go undefeated, regardless of the fact that we didn't think that they were as good as some of the AAC teams, it wouldn't have mattered. They went undefeated. They took care of business. They did what they had to do. That's why going undefeated is difficult. Injuries happen, and you're plays away from a perfect season. But now the conversation moves toward, like you said, SMU, who's currently undefeated. The other teams in the AAC as they continue to beat each other up. And can Appalachian State run the table? And wouldn't it be such a shame for App State if they did run the table, but SMU did too, and so they don't get their shot, and App State just goes to some bowl game as a result? Because that they won't go to some spectacular.
App State's going to go to some bowl game and just beat the tar out of some ACC team.
Right. They'll end up getting Miami or somebody like that and just annihilate them.
Real quick about BYU. They're the most confusing team in the country.
Oh, yeah.
I'm convinced that any given week, BYU could beat anybody. But on the same coin, like any given week, anybody could beat BYU.
Well, BYU lost to USF and Toledo, but's beaten Boise State, USC, and someone else of significance. Maybe
someone else good. Yeah, Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee.
Not good, but it's like that's still an SEC team. Like it's a very bizarre schedule to be.
And all 3 of those games, I mean, they beat Tennessee and USC on the road, I believe. Right?
Yeah, they went into and I think Boise State was on the It's insane. It's insane. But all right, moving to the next game. Let's do this.
All right, Kansas versus Texas. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but there was some interesting takeaways here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have very much to say other than Texas is so weird. Texas is so talented, and yet
their defense is horrendous. It's absolutely awful.
So bad. And the thing that's frustrating for Texas is like, now what, right? Like, because Texas is starting to feel a little Michigan-y to me in the opposite way, right? In the opposite way, where Michigan is not entertaining. At least Texas is entertaining. But it's like, I feel like both of those programs should constantly be competing for national championships, and both of them are like just not good enough to do so.
Did you see the stat that if Kansas had won this game against Texas, they would have had 2 conference wins in like 6 years, and both of them would have been against Texas.
That's an incredible.
And they were like a combined like 0-84 against all other.
Right. It makes no sense, and it's just purgatory that they're living in. And Sam Ehlinger is incredible, just simply incredible. And I don't really have much else to say about this game. It was a fluke game, and if Kansas had beaten Texas, it would have been very similar to Illinois beating Wisconsin, and that Texas really did dominate the game. But their defense was just horrible. They kept moving the ball, but their defense was horrible. What were your takeaways?
This game really shows me that Iowa State or Baylor should probably be the favorites to play Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, because both of those teams have defenses that I believe can slow down Texas enough where their offenses can keep up the pace, especially since they'll be playing against Texas's defense.
Right.
Also, like, not to take anything away from Kansas, like, say what you want about Les Miles, but, I mean, Kansas looks more competent week to week than they ever have, in my lifetime at least, or in my college football watching lifetime. So, just being competitive in his first year, week in and week out, is something that we've never seen, really, since we've been watching college football.
Yeah.
So, I'm not what's the word? I'm not convinced that he can't get this to a consistent bowl eligible team. Will Kansas ever be competing for, Rose Bowl berths or Cotton Bowl berths or like playoff appearances? Probably not. But I do have faith in Les Miles to get them to maybe a 6, 7, 8 win team on a consistent basis at this rate.
Yeah, there's no reason why not, right? Like that's the big
Right.
thing is that there's no reason why in the Big 12 they can't at least have a semblance of success going forward. You know, maybe be bowl eligible a few years in a row.
I mean, it would be hard to be worse than they have been, right?
Right. That's the key takeaway, to be honest. And they haven't been good in a number of years, so it's nice to see them competing on like a reasonable level.
Yeah,
Let's just
exactly.
skip on to game number 5.
Yeah, man. We've had like for two people that hate Michigan.
We have
For
them
two people that hate
week.
Michigan for
so
people that hate Michigan as much as we do,
Michigan.
we talk about Michigan. Yeah,
we talk about
Michigan
them so much, and I hate it. But Michigan and Penn State, you know, what
they
I'll
played
say,
a game.
I'll give Michigan credit. More competitive than I thought it would be. You know, they hung in there with Penn State at night. Didn't really expect that, to be honest, but I guess when when you play the type of defense that Michigan tends to play, you're gonna be successful. Unfortunately, they still can't play offense. They can't do it, and Penn State can, and that was the difference. I mean, really, it was that simple. It's just, here's what Michigan. I know Penn State should be the conversation, but you guys, if you've been watching the show, you know how I feel about Penn State. I feel like Penn State has this sneaky chance to really shake up the entire playoff because they've been very good thus far this season. But when you look at Michigan and what they're going to be, this is exactly what they are. You know, they're good enough to sneak away with wins over the Michigan States and Iowas of the world, but they're not good enough to beat the top teams. You know, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Ohio State. That's just simply where they're at, and it's purgatory that they've been living in, and it's got to be beyond frustrating as a Michigan fan.
Michigan's the like classic middle school bully where they're just gonna beat the shit out of the kids that are way weaker than them, and then when the high school bully comes along, they either don't have anything to say or they get their ass kicked.
It's perfect.
Right? So
perfect. Perfect.
I can't stand Michigan, man. I hate that we have to keep talking about them. I will say this: Penn State firmly a top 10 team in the country in my mind.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you're a Penn State fan coming into the year, it was by all accounts this was going to be a rebuilding year of sorts, where they were still going to be a top 25 team, right? Because it's Penn State, and that's the level of talent that they have in that program.
Right.
But to be so far along already in the post Trace McSorley, Joe Moorhead, Saquon Barkley kind of, sphere, like to be this far ahead already, it's really promising, and it just speaks to James Franklin, again, just being one of the better coaches in the country.
Yeah.
I know he leaves a lot to be desired in late close game situations.
Right.
But week to week, just how his teams are prepared and the level of talent that they continue to bring in, and kind of like even the family atmosphere that the program has, like it's all very evident.
Well, and for that matter, when it comes to Franklin, like I don't think we can underestimate how important it is to have your team prepared every single week. So like while you're right, his prep on the fly late in games. You know what I could even maybe compare it to, and this is going to be a weird.
He's the Andy Reid of college football.
No, this is a weird. Eric Spoelstra of
the
Miami Heat, not the best at drawing up, plays to get a guy open at the end of the game. Not the best.
Yeah,
he's fine at it. He's not bad at it, right? Like James Franklin is not bad at coaching at the end of games either. But Eric Spoelstra.
If you're talking about development and culture, though, those are the guys you want. Yeah.
Right, development.
That's a really good comparison. I like that a lot.
Yeah, development, culture, and for that matter, I never feel like the Heat's game plan going into a game against another opponent, especially when you get like toward the playoffs and there's like legitimate game planning game to game. They're never unprepared. And so now, while there's some to be desired games, when you really, really think about it, it's like, I'll take that average end of game coaching for the rest of it. And I would say the same about James Franklin. and being able to say that I know Penn State's always going to be prepared. I know that the culture is very specific, and that was important that he establish it at Penn State, given the space that he entered that university. And I think that he's a very, very, very good college football coach who's constantly recruiting at a high level in a place where it could have easily gone downhill, and he stepped in and turned this program instantly back around and instantly into a contender.
And he's the only coach to ever have Vanderbilt look like a competent football program, right?
Right. Although,
and
shout out Vanderbilt with their big win this past weekend.
Jesus Christ, who saw that one coming? Real quick, too, just the hubris of Michigan. Like, I understand they play man defense on the outside, but when KJ Hamler is just eating your cornerbacks alive, and that accounted for 14 points, which essentially is the difference in the game, maybe Don Brown needs to look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe I can't do what I always do and put these kids in the right position to succeed. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Michigan program right now is Jim Harbaugh and Don Brown are just so set in their ways that, this program's never going to change at this rate.
No, it's not.
It's just not.
No, it's not.
Look what change has done for LSU and Ed Orgeron, right?
Exactly.
Look what change has done for Florida even, changing from Will Muschamp to – it's just changed. It's good. It's a good thing.
If Ed Orgeron himself can change, period, can change a T-shirt or can change a culture or can change his own offensive game plan, it's impressive to me. So,
exactly.
That's the spot where Jim Harbaugh needs to do some self-evaluation. And moving in our last game to recap here.
I don't want to spend too much time on this one. This one hurts. Should we just take a moment of silence?
Yeah, let's take a moment in silence for Tulane's undefeated season.
Oh, they had already lost to Auburn.
Oh, sorry, but let's take a moment of silence for Tulane's stretch of possibly winning the AAC, just for like 4 seconds.
Amazing grace.
All right, so Tulane got the break speed off of them by Memphis. Which, of all teams to get smacked by, that sucks too.
This is direct karma for you and me because Brady White came out and played the game of his fucking life.
We were
21 of 29, 358 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
We were torching the kid. I literally had to go out of my way last week to say, hey, I don't like to take individual shots, but Brady White. And then he came out and smacked our team. Smacked our favorite side chick team here. Tulane.
The official team of the Preferred Walk-Ons show.
Quite literally, because our color palette is because of Tulane. Before we even knew Tulane would really be good this year. And here we are, and
I hate everything about this game so much.
Yeah.
I hate that Justin McMillan went 15 of 28 for 187 yards and 3 interceptions. I hate that he was also the team's leading rusher. Somehow Tulane has 3 great running backs, and none of them had more than 20 yards rushing.
It makes no sense.
Kenneth Gainwell had 104 yards rushing and 203 yards receiving.
Right. Well, that's unbelievable.
That kid's an animal, though. I have to be honest. That kid's unbelievable.
Well, and
he might be the best player in the conference.
What's crazy about Memphis is, think about that. They lost Darrell Henderson. They lost Tony Pollard. Patrick Taylor got hurt. Those 3 kids were the ones carrying the load. And Atwell's maybe the best of any of them. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
And they're weirdly becoming a running back at Memphis. And
bro, he had 307 yards and 3 touchdowns on 22 carries or 22 touches.
Right, 22 touches. 22 touches. That's an insane yards per touch average. And Tulane's defense Tulane's defense just let him down, right?
Yeah.
When you look at it from that angle, as bad, and look, you could also say whatever the stats were there for McMillan, where it was, however many completions, but it was 3 interceptions, that obviously puts Memphis in position to succeed offensively and puts, Tulane in a short field situation. But they just got smacked in every sense of the term, and it's really disappointing considering the type of season Tulane was having.
Yeah.
To see it all kind of come to an end in that way. Like, it's one thing if they would have lost that Houston game earlier this year, right? Where it was all sort of fluky. But to get just dominated, that one hurts. That one hurts to the people that really like Tulane. And
so
yeah, that was us.
This is the first time I've like dove into Kenneth Gainwell's numbers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know he's a freshman?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. He was never even supposed to really play very much.
Yeah, he's a redshirt freshman. He has 830 rushing yards on the season and 440 receiving yards.
Right.
He averages 7.3 yards per carry on the ground and 13 yards per reception.
Well, and the crazier part about that also wait, hold on. Sorry. Processing the 13 yards per reception. The crazy part of it took me a second there.
He's a freak.
It took me
He's a freak.
The crazier part is that, number one, he wasn't really supposed to play all that much. Number two, he didn't in the first couple of games because Patrick Taylor was healthy. Patrick Taylor was the bell cow.
He's from Yazoo City, Mississippi.
How does this happen?
Kenneth Gainwell's now my favorite player in the country. All right.
You can't just do – all right, whatever. Replacing your Tulane love with Kenneth Gainwell love. Let's move.
I still love Tulane. Don't get me wrong.
Quick hitters time. Let's just –
Kenneth Gainwell. Jesus Christ. All right, yeah, quick hitters. All right. I got Florida State 20, Wake 22. Only to say Wake. That's it. Right. Although the loss of Justin Strand for the season really hurts because he was literally the only one playing any defense for Wake. So that doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
Baylor 45, Oklahoma State 27. Baylor Hive is alive and thriving. I'd like to say that I was first on that bandwagon.
You were.
Also, Chuba Hubbard in a losing effort almost again had 200 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns.
What a waste of a college season. Like, you ever think about that?
Who's wasting away harder, Chuba Hubbard or A.J. Dillon?
Oh, God. I guess
at least Chuba Hubbard's young. Like, he's still got a couple more seasons.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon's carrying the ball like 40 times a game, so he's ruining his NFL career before he gets started.
It's honestly a beat.
Yeah. Steve Adazio, like, he should sue Steve Adazio.
Should, like,
for malpractice.
Yeah, well, the same way Christian McCaffrey should sue Ron Rivera.
Because he's murdering him. Yeah, he's killing him.
He's going to die. Yeah, he's killing him. AJ Dillon has the same thing going on with him. Anyway.
And then finally, like, you kind of touched on it already, but Vanderbilt 21, Missouri 14.
What?
What the fuck? Like, that's if you watched Vanderbilt at any point this season, like, I saw that score at the airport. I was like, that must be loading wrong because I'm in the airport. Like, let me refresh. Yeah. And it was still the same after like 5 times refreshing it. Yeah, like, honestly, what the fuck? Like, I'm confused. That's it. That's all I have.
Yeah, you're right. All right, fine. Let's just move on.
Bro, hold on. I'm sorry. That's not all I have. Because in the post-game interview, I don't know if you saw it, but in the post-game interview, even Derek Mason, Vanderbilt's head coach, he looked confused. He was shocked.
He was not only shocked, but he was an insane person. Derek Mason makes me want to root for Vanderbilt. And I don't want to root for Vanderbilt. But Derek Mason makes me want to root for Vanderbilt. All right. So UM and Georgia Tech. UM was a 20-point favorite at home against Georgia Tech and lost in overtime. Look, I'll give you, their kickers have just killed them all year. Another example this past weekend. And multiple mistakes.
It's so delicious. It's so delicious.
And Georgia Tech played nearly a perfect game. They had a touchdown on a fake punt that was a perfect throw. Like a perfect throw.
The best throw any Georgia Tech player has thrown all season.
All in 15 years. They were a triple option team. But if you're Miami, man, you're going to go out and lose to a team that literally can't even throw the ball yet? Like, they're just learning how to throw?
Georgia Tech scored 2 points 2 weeks ago. 2 points.
It's insane.
Against Temple.
They barely beat USF. I was startled and happy.
Wait, hold on. Georgia Tech has wins against USF and Miami?
Yeah, I believe so.
Georgia Tech's the new team of South Florida. I mean, that's just the rules.
That's it. Georgia Tech is South Florida. Congratulations, everyone.
They have Atlanta and Miami. That's pretty impressive.
What was pretty dope, to be honest, was that they were in the locker room at Miami dancing around about and yelling ATL. It was honestly incredible.
Jeff Collins is bringing the swag back to Georgia Tech. They're going to be good in a couple years.
That program is going to be good eventually. But the one other thing that this does is every ACC coastal team has beaten each other. So, in that there's like a circle. If you make a circle of all the ACC coastal teams.
You know what they used to call that? That used to be a segment on College Game Day Final with Lou Holtz. Back when it was like Lou Holtz. It was the ACC Wheel of Destiny because everybody was just beating everybody.
And the Wheel of Destiny is still available for the ACC. So shout out Miami for choking and being 3-4. # the new Miami. So Tennessee at Bama, this has nothing to do with the game. Although Tennessee hung in there way more than –
I'm telling you, bro, I really don't like Alabama this year. I really don't.
Tennessee was – they were driving. I don't know.
If their starting QB hadn't got hurt at the beginning of the game and they didn't have to play Jarrett Guarantano, who's just been abysmal all season – Right, it would have been fine. It would have been closer. It would have been closer.
But it was 28-13. They're driving with a chance to.
Yeah, and then they caused a fumble at the goal line and took it all the way to the house.
And what are you going to do? But anyway, Tua. So Tua had a high ankle sprain on the other ankle from what he hurt last year. And all I want to say about this, Alabama should sit Tua through the LSU game, even if he's healthy. Why? Because I think LSU is the better football team than Alabama, period, with Tua, without Tua. And if Alabama loses to LSU with Tua, they probably won't make the playoff. But if Alabama loses to LSU without Tua.
This is a little conspiracy, Jeremy, going here. I like this.
Think about it. If Alabama goes and beats Arkansas without Tua, but then loses to LSU and hangs in there, but even if they got blown out, and LSU goes undefeated and wins the SEC and is the number one team in the country, Alabama sitting there as the dominant team that they've been, and they can just go, all right, we were without the guy who's going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. Now he's back. Now he's healthy. Put us in the playoff. And that's a much more reasonable level of excuse than having lost with Tua, even if he is still a little bit banged up. So to me, I'm sitting Tua as long as I feel is possible to then come back and win whatever game you need to win at the end of the year. That's just my thing. And for that matter, if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I never play another game in college football. I don't know why I would risk getting hurt. I'm the number one pick, and I have clearly bad ankles, and I don't know why I would play again. And then
the Dolphins are about to draft Derrick Rose first overall.
Oh, God, what are you doing to me? Oh, God. Oh, God.
I don't want to wish that on Tua either. I'm sorry. Let me take that back.
Oh, man.
I'm rescinding that comment.
Yeah, just take it back. Zion Williamson. Cal and Oregon State. What?
Oregon State, man. The Beavers.
Yeah, but so
Jonathan Smith hive, stand up. Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins hive, stand up.
Except for the fact that you, of all people, were all over the Cal hive. You were all in on Cal. They started 4-0. They were playing great football.
You know what happened? Chase Garbers got hurt. And Devon Monster's terrible. That's what happened.
He is bad, but my God, man. What happened here? They lost. Look, and I get it. Hey,
man, you don't just go into you just don't go into Corvallis and get a win against the Beavers. You got to come prepared. You got to bring your lunch pail, Jeremy.
Oh, I'm so sorry for not figuring that out. Look, here's the thing. I get losing to Arizona State and Oregon. Oregon State's a weird one to be. But anyway, let's move on.
One last thing on the Cal thing, losing your starting quarterback and Evan Weaver, possibly the best linebacker in the country, that's going to do it to you.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course. So let's go ahead and we have a Heisman list here, which I did not fill out. And the reason
just tell me your top three. Let's go. Let's do this.
Well,
we'll each give 3, then 2, then 1.
All right, sure.
You want to do that?
Yeah, the reason I have it totally empty is just out of respect to my boy Mackenzie Milton, who would be listed as 1, 2, and 3 had he
Jesus
not gotten
Christ,
hurt.
I hate you so much.
All right, so I have a hard time thinking of anybody that I'm gonna have any different than you, to be honest with you.
So you just want to combine it into one list? We can do that.
I mean, let me just take a second. Why don't you go ahead and do your 3, 2, and 1? Actually, no. I I have my guy that I'm gonna have at 3 to just.
All right, so tell me.
Here. So my 3 is Shane Buechele.
I like that
because you know what, the guy's been his stats are not crazy, but he's been really really efficient this season.
He steps up when they need him.
Right. He's not turning the ball over. He has a ton of what you would consider like quote unquote Heisman moments. And if they do run the table and they end up being the group of 5 representative, you know that means ultimately he's going to have even more big moments and even more big games going forward.
Yeah.
And I just think that he's put himself in a position in a year where there's not really a super clear-cut Heisman favorite. I think he's put himself in position to screw it. Why not? You know? And that's my guy.
Yeah. I've got Chuba Hubbard 3. I've just been driving the Chuba Hubbard. I've had him as like my grown man of the week like 3 times already this season. I've just like retired it. I every week just assumed Chuba Hubbard was a grown man that week because he probably was. So I have him 3rd. I mean, he's just been incredible. And there's really not like surprisingly, Oklahoma State's not getting a lot out of their passing game. So he's single-handedly carrying that offense.
Right.
Do we have the same guys at 2 and 1 in the same order?
Yes, we have the same order. Yep.
So, okay, so we both have Jalen Hurts at 2 and Joe Burrow at 1 then. Is there – Joe Burrow is ahead for me because of the competition.
Exactly. No, that's simply it.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow –
like Jalen Hurts is unarguably has the better numbers, I feel like.
Right.
But Joe Burrow's numbers are just as good, like maybe like 10% less, and he's played far better opponents.
Right, and he's played spectacular football and brought LSU to a place where they're arguably the best team in the country, arguably.
If you could have told 2007 Meech that in week 9 of a college football season, an LSU quarterback would be leading the country in Heisman voting,
get out of here.
I would be very uncomfortable.
For that matter, if you told 2017 Meech and Jeremy, they'd be like, "What are you talking?"
Yeah, seriously.
Right? I mean, only a couple years ago.
Austin Appleby? Are you kidding me? Get out of here. I think he was at Florida, but it was one of those Purdue transfers.
Right, one of those guys.
There was 2 Purdue transfers playing in the SEC at the same time. People don't like to talk about it.
The thing with Hurts as well is I think there's also just a little bit of Oklahoma fatigue. Like, you could just plug and play. And, like, next year when De'Aaron King inevitably transfers to Houston, he's going to do the same thing. And we're going to be like, oh, my God, De'Aaron King for Heisman. And it's this.
How hurt would you be? Hold on. I'm going to just speak this into existence because I know it's going to hurt you, like, to your core.
I don't think it's going to hurt.
How hurt would you be? No, this is going to hurt you.
Oh, God, it's going to hurt. I know. I'm ready
Mackenzie Milton's going to transfer to Oklahoma.
Oh, my God. He should. He should.
Yeah, he should.
He should. Oh, no. Oh, no. I hadn't even thought about that one. I was already processing.
It's on the table.
Well, I was already
the table.
I was already doing the inevitable processing of him transferring to Nebraska because Adrian Martinez has been a giant disappointment. And so now that's sort of back on the table where I didn't think it was at the beginning of the year. Oh, Oklahoma. It's such a good idea. Oh, no. And oh, God. And he's going to go with Heupel when Heupel goes because – Heupel, you know what I mean? Heupel's going to go.
Heupel's going to take the job because Lincoln Riley's going to be the coach of the Cowboys.
Oh, my God. And then Milton's going to win a Heisman in Oklahoma with Heupel. Oh, God, kill me now. All right, let's just move on because I can't do this. All
right, we don't have to spend a lot of time on the polls. I'm just going to put them up on the screen here.
Yeah, we got it.
Just key differences. Like, again, we still have Ohio State number 1. I still think – I don't understand having Alabama as the best team in the country at this point.
Yeah, neither do I.
There's nothing about Alabama to me. I honestly – and, you know, our poll is like how we feel. And I honestly don't believe Alabama is better than Ohio State, LSU, or Oklahoma at this point in the season.
I don't.
And I think, honestly, Clemson, if they get their shit together, is still better. Like, I really just don't like this Alabama team this year.
I don't think that – look, they're obviously in that same league with those teams. And would I be shocked if Alabama –
They could beat any of them for sure.
Would I be shocked if Alabama, you know, went undefeated and won the national championship? No. It's Alabama, and they have the quote-unquote best quarterback in the country, and they have 2 of the best, if not the 2 best receivers.
They have the best receiving core in the country, yeah.
And they have great running backs every year, year in and year out.
But this is the problem, and this is the same problem Wisconsin had. where, Alabama's offense can make up for it a little bit better than Wisconsin's offense can, but they have yet to play a good offense all season. Alabama has not played one offense worth a shit all year.
And that becomes your concern when you do play LSU next week, or I guess 2 weeks.
Because their defense hasn't even looked good against the bad teams that they've played.
No, so
it just really hasn't.
Can they just outscore everybody? Maybe, but do I trust that that's necessarily going to be the case? I don't know. And so,
especially when they're playing teams that can score, just like all three of the teams above them in our rankings can score just as well as Alabama can,
if not better. For that,
if not better, that's the thing,
right?
So,
and all three of them, Oklahoma aside, although Oklahoma's played more competent defense this year. I mean, they slowed down Sam Ehlinger in Texas. All three of them can do a little bit. Can do a little bit to stop. Oh, did I freeze?
You did.
Okay, my internet connection is unstable according to Zoom. So thanks, Zoom. But I think we're better now. So I feel very confident in the way that we have our top 6 listed. I think that's fair. Our next 4 after that, next 5 after that, for that matter, is an interesting grouping that has all been grouped together. But I will say, when you go Oregon, Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Notre Dame, here's the reality.
We have Oregon much higher than everybody else, too.
We do. And for that matter, I am not one to often do the Auburn beat Oregon, but Oregon's better thing.
Right.
Because most of the time that feels a little hypocritical. That said, in this scenario, I think it's even clear that Florida and Georgia are obviously Florida beat down Auburn pretty handily. I think it's pretty clear that those two teams at the moment are better than Auburn. And I just think that Oregon's better than both Florida and Georgia. And the reason I say that is Justin Herbert. And their defense has been very good. But that's not something that we can, I know they give up 31 points to.
I think that's the most interesting part about Oregon is that their defense is so good. And then they have Justin Herbert.
Right, because you could make the argument that their defense is actually better than their offense, but that they just have this dynamic quarterback. And
that's exactly it.
And it's a shame that they're likely not going to end up in a position where they're going to go to, a big game. We already discussed this, but Oregon to me is very much the next best team of after that, that top grouping. Is there anything?
Notre Dame is not better. Like Notre Dame is higher than Florida, is higher than Auburn, Georgia, and Oregon in the AP and coaches poll. They're not better than those teams. I'm sorry, they're just not.
They're not.
They're just not.
They're not. And for that matter,
and they're gonna get a bump this week too. They're gonna get a bump this week too when they beat Michigan.
They're gonna lose to Michigan. How about that?
Jesus Christ! Then Michigan's gonna go back up.
How about
that?
That's gonna be fun. How about that? Yeah. And moving to the rest of our list, when you just start down there from 12, SMU at 16, those are our guys. Wisconsin obviously took the drop to 14 after their loss. Cincinnati there at 18, who, man, they're just skating by, but they're going to end up, I really feel like they're going to end up being the team that ends up going to the New Year's Six game, and they're going to lose it because they're not that good. And then, going down from there, Boise State gets to remain ranked, understandably. They lost without their quarterback. It's one loss. Then there's the Memphis huge win over Tulane that bumps them up. Obviously, I don't understand why they're not getting more love across the board. In all of the other rankings. And for that matter, obviously there's App State, who we have at 20, who they're 21 in the AP poll. They deserve to be there. So those group of 5 teams really, the second half of the top 25 is dominated by group of 5 teams and mostly by AAC teams. And you think about the team just on the outside looking in. Tulane was on the outside looking in. UCF is on the outside looking in. Right there, knocking on the door, trying to get back into the top 25. Memphis, obviously, the AP poll. So, obviously our poll's a little bit different, but based off of everything.
Yeah, we have Baylor and Wake a little higher, but I would just consider those Meech bumps. Same thing with Minnesota.
Yeah, those are just bumps. Meech bumps. Just Meech bumps.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
You might want to get those checked out, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about how great I am at picking college football games.
Yeah, bro. So this is a huge week for you.
Huge.
Oregon beat Washington, which we both had. SMU beat Temple, which you had. You also had Baylor beating Oklahoma State. We both had Utah beating Arizona State. Unfortunately, we both got Tulane wrong. Good night, sweet Prince.
All right.
And then we both got Penn State beating Michigan. Jeremy, you are now after a 5-1 week. You are now 23-19 on the season.
Let's go.
Nipping at my heels a little bit here, buddy, because I am 27-13 on the season. So let's get into game one here. Wisconsin versus Ohio State. I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on a lot of these games. Wisconsin doesn't feel to me to have the firepower offensively to stick with Ohio State, especially if Ohio State can slow down Jonathan Taylor, which every indication is they will be able to because they've been incredible on defense all year.
Yes, they have.
This feels like a big statement win for Ohio State, where they kind of say, you guys, not the preferred walk-ons, because we have them number one in our poll.
Number one. We know.
But they say to the AP poll who has them third and the coaches poll who has them fourth, like, no, we're the best team in the country. This is the best Ohio State team since the national championship team in 2015.
Yeah.
It might even be better than that team. I'd still like to see them against better opponents, but this is a great team. I think Ohio State rolls in this one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Unless Jack Cohn plays the game of his life, which
a little Brady White experience.
You never know, man. I mean, the kid's not bad. I will say Jack Cohn's better than any quarterback they've had in a very long time. He's much better than Alex Hornibrook was. But as we look at bye Meech, as we look at Wisconsin and Ohio State, and yeah, I'm not going to talk to you while this is happening. Oh, there you are. You're back.
My bad. Somehow the app closed on my phone that I used to record.
No worries. But what I was saying was, Jack Cohn, I won't sort of make fun of. I think the kid is pretty good. He's better than Alex Hornibrook was. But I just don't.
Much.
Yeah, I just don't see a way where they go to Ohio State. Now, if Wisconsin was hosting this game.
Oh, then it's a completely different story.
Totally different conversation. Right?
We've talked about it before that the people in Madison and Wisconsin are fucking maniacs.
They're insane people. It might be that one of the, if not, I mean, it's not the toughest place to play in the country, but it's up there. It's top 5.
It's top 7 for sure.
Yeah, and so if it was there, it'd be a different conversation. But going to Ohio State after a disappointing loss like that to Illinois, now you're playing with nothing to lose, right? At this point, in a way, you're playing with sort of house money, but I don't know. I don't see it. In Ohio State, like we said, they're the most complete team in the country at the very moment. Moving to game 2. So we both have Ohio State there. Auburn LSU. Yep. This one's really interesting to me. If LSU,
is it?
Because if LSU didn't have a bye week coming up before the Alabama game, then I might be telling you that Auburn could win this game.
Right.
Because I would say that LSU is maybe looking ahead, looking at that 1-2 matchup, right? Feeling themselves, feeling confident. But instead, they get to go into this, and the motivation gets to be, hey, take care of business against Auburn. And it's you and Bama for controlling your own destiny. And so when you can
for being widely seen as the best team in the country.
Best team in the country, period. Right?
Yeah.
To be in that position, I think is a much different position than having to go and play Bama next week. And I think that that's a huge difference. I mean, schedule making and the schedule that you have really does dictate what your season can look like, regardless of how good your football team actually is. And LSU's been so dominant in the fact that they have an opportunity here. They've seen what the Gators did to be able to kind of slow down Auburn. They have the recipe right there, and they can probably do it just as well on the defensive side of the ball. And then offensively, obviously, they can do it better than the Gators can. I just think LSU, again, we've been arguing back and forth between whether LSU or Ohio State's the best team in the country, and it's really a coin flip. And, I think that they're just going to be a little too much. It could be similar to what the Gator game felt like against LSU, where it was close.
And then they pull ahead at the end.
And then they kind of pull ahead a little bit at the end. I don't think this is necessarily going to be a blowout, but I think LSU is a little too much for Auburn.
I don't think Auburn can score with LSU.
Right.
And as much as I like Bo Nix and I like Anthony Schwartz, they don't do a good enough job of getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And LSU is going to be as good as Auburn's defense is. Playing on the road in Death Valley, that's tough for anybody. I got LSU as well.
Yep.
Right. I don't want to talk about this game for too long. Notre Dame, Michigan. Michigan's ranked 24th in our poll.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to rank them at all, but like I guess their 2 losses are against ranked teams, so you got to keep them in. But
I guess quality. Michigan State is quality loss to you. I mean, Michigan is quality loss to you. Like that's
100%.
Or their quality loss to you. They beat all the teams that they're supposed to beat, and then they lose to good teams, and we go, oh, well, they're good teams that they lost to.
That's kind of what this matchup is, though, right? Like Notre Dame's the same way.
Right. Well, and if Notre Dame loses to Michigan, everyone will go, oh, man, I guess, Michigan's demise wasn't as bad as we thought. Not, oh, shit, Notre Dame's not good either.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say.
Which is why I'm picking. I can't have it be Michigan might actually be good and Notre Dame's still going to be ranked highly all season. I can't have that. So I've got Notre Dame taking it. Also because while their defense hasn't been as good as it has been in recent years, Notre Dame's defense is still good enough to shut down what is a putrid Michigan offense.
You ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
16-13, Michigan.
I hate you.
At
I hate
home.
you so much. Why would you do that? Because if Michigan wins, we're going to have to keep talking about Michigan. At least if Michigan loses, we only have to talk about Notre Dame moving forward. We don't. I hate you.
Put your house on it. Michigan's going to beat Notre Dame because life is a lie in a flat circle. Time is a flat circle. All right. So this one, UCF at Temple. I'm going to be quick about it. I promise.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Every time we've talked about UCF on this stupid show, they've lost. So I don't really want to talk about them. I have a different fear for Temple than I had for Cincinnati and Pitt. And that, like, I legitimately think Temple should beat UCF now. I think the Temple's like a pretty good team.
Jesus, Jeremy, have some faith, man.
Well, no, I have faith, and I think UCF will win the game.
Shane Buechele, like not to take anything away from Shane Buechele. Shane Buechele just tore apart Temple. Like Dylan Gabriel should be able to do the same thing.
I tend to agree with you. But the good news is that Temple doesn't necessarily have this like raucous home field advantage. But Dylan Gabriel has played really, really poorly on the road. Against better teams, right? Cincinnati and Pitt are both better than Temple, although not by like a significant margin.
I don't think Pitt's better than Temple.
Yeah, I don't think it's like by a significant margin, if at all. And going on the road, playing at night in the cold, not something that Dylan Gabriel certainly is used to, right? I mean, the kid's from Hawaii. Mm-hmm. He's never played in anything lower than like 90 degrees. Even when they went to Pitt, it wasn't cold. So do I feel like super confident? No. But with the way UCF, the thing that I will say for UCF, number one, needs to stop with the bad penalties. And number two, I am so sick of the lack of preparedness going into the second half of football games with UCF.
It's the biggest problem.
Against East Carolina last week, they sat on the ball, and then even when they didn't sit on the ball, they weren't moving the ball.
Did I see this correctly that Greg McCrae's not playing?
Greg McCrae's out. Greg McCrae has
that's not good.
So let me just say this also. Good. I just want to put this out into the universe. And for what it's worth, say UCF does get through this game. When you look at this season and you see that Mackenzie Milton got hurt at the end of last year, so you're without the guy that would have been your starter. Darryl Mack gets hurt in the offseason, so the guy that really would have been your starter never ends up, starting for your team. Even though Dylan Gabriel's been great, that was the guy, and I'm, part of that game. Maybe Pitt and Cincinnati go differently if you have a mobile quarterback. You're about to be without Greg McCrae, who averaged 9 yards per carry last year. You're about to be without him for the rest of the year, more likely.
I mean, they barely give him the ball enough anyway.
Sure, but you're about to be without that guy for a long period of time. You've been without Randy Charlton, who's arguably your best pass rusher since the Stanford game. You've been without Bam Moore, who's other than Richie Grant, your best defensive back.
Again, you can blame that on Heupel for playing him in a 50-point fucking blowout.
Right, right. But when you look,
God damn it.
injuries, and not just injuries, but injuries to key players have really decimated this team. And the fact that they are 5-2 and still sort of have that outside shot at a conference that's better this year than any year before just shows how talented the rest of the team really is. And it's such a disappointment that they could lose this game and it could really set them back. I'm taking UCF because I have to, right? Like I have no choice but to take UCF. Although wouldn't it be fun to hedge myself and take Temple just so that way when UCF wins, I'm okay with it. But I'm going to take UCF.
So do it then.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take UCF, but I don't feel confident going into this game, to be blatantly honest with you. I think Vontavious Thompson's going to have a killer game, though, out of the backfield, and so will Otis Anderson.
I'm going to take UCF, too. I just don't think Temple has enough juice to beat them.
Yeah.
Right. But Josh Heupel needs to get his head out of his ass.
Yeah, I know.
No, you're good, dude.
All right, so let's just let's cruise through these. Game 5. Good God. There are not a lot of football games, as we said.
Not a lot here.
Virginia and Louisville. Yeah. Ugh.
I'll say this. I put it on here because I'm interested to see Louisville at home. Their offense actually looks much better than I thought it would this year.
Yes.
And I'm excited to see them against Virginia's defense. So that'll be fun to watch. I still think Virginia's a top 25-ish team, probably when all's said and done. So I'm going to take them, but I wouldn't be shocked if Louisville wins this game, especially at home.
Yeah, at this point, with the way the ACC has sort of been so raucous, I'm just going to take Louisville, not because I necessarily think that they are going to win, but just so that I pick the other team than you.
That's fine.
And
trying to make up the difference in the standings.
That's all I'm trying to do. This is strategic because I think that at this point with the ACC, even though I think Virginia should win the game, they're the better team.
Right.
Louisville's got a shot, right? Because anything can happen in the ACC these days.
Louisville beat Wake 60-58 in like triple overtime. So literally anything can happen.
Yeah. And then the last game, Washington State and Oregon. You wrote it down there. It's just I think the matchup I'm looking for, Oregon's going to win the game. But Anthony Gordon at Washington State and that offense playing against the Oregon defense, who we just talked about earlier in the show, is very good. That should be a fun matchup. This is sort of like when we were excited to see Mason Fine early in the year play against some decent defenses, and those defenses kind of shut them down. I'm interested to see Anthony Gordon here in this position playing against a really solid defense in Oregon.
Yeah, because he kind of I think he lit up Utah, which is like the most comparable to Oregon that I think you can find on Washington State's schedule so far. Mm-hmm. But here, hold on. Let me check. But yeah, I think that is it makes the matchup watchable in a week where there's not a lot of watchable games.
Exactly.
Right?
That's going to be
you can talk yourself into it.
Yeah, if you're a college football fan, like if you're just someone that likes college football and has been following the storylines and enjoys watching good college football teams play, that's going to be it could end up being honestly one of the most competitive games of the weekend. Because like we just mentioned, like we both think that LSU and Ohio State are going to win their big games relatively easily. Who in their right mind wants to watch Notre Dame and Michigan? And then from there, there's not
guys.
Right. There's not exactly great games to check out. So this is almost more of a PSA to the people watching this show that Washington State and Oregon could be a good one.
Yeah, against Utah, he was 30 of 49 for 252 yards, a touchdown. So not his best game, but
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Oregon in this one. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Oregon too. Like it would take a lot for Washington State to win.
All right, so the only ones that we disagree on, I have Louisville over Virginia. I have Michigan over Notre Dame. Other than that, we are chalk.
We have Ohio State over Wisconsin, LSU over Auburn, UCF over Temple, Virginia over LSU, and no. I'm sorry, you picked Louisville. That's right. And then we both picked Oregon against Washington State.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's wrap this thing up with our quick segments here. Your grown man of the week, Meech.
It's your boy, Sam Ehlinger.
My dog.
Although I am tempted to put Kenneth Gainwell in here now. But Ellinger going 31 of 44 for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns to go along with 14 carries for 91 yards. And he led that game-winning drive that set up Dicker the kicker there at the end. I had to get a Dicker the kicker in there. I'm sorry.
Oh, of course, I understand. That's the whole reason.
But he just had a great game. So Sam Ellinger, the heartbeat of the Texas program, because that defense is dead.
Their defense is dead. I'm gonna go with Gabe Davis of UCF just because I haven't done it once this year. I am a homer. I haven't done it once this year. I just needed to get an opportunity to say this guy is one of the most consistent things in college football. He's unbelievable. Yeah. His hands are unbelievably consistent. He had one game, I think it was the Cincinnati game, with a couple of drops, and it was like startling. Like everyone, what's happening here? Like every time the ball touches his hands, I expect it to be caught. He had 9 for 164 and 2 touchdowns. And the reason I say grown man of the week is he had a touchdown where he ran sort of like a skinny post on the short side of the field. And it was like a 15-yard touchdown, but defensive backs just like bounced off of him as he was going to catch the ball. And it was just the ultimate grown man moment of just like, yeah, no, I'm better than you, and I know it, and you know it, and why are you even trying to cover me? Like
you are a child to me. Sir.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just,
I am a grown man. Yeah,
I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see him play at the next level because he's going to leave after his junior year this year, and I'm excited to see that. It's going to happen, and I'm excited to see him play at the next level because he's a remarkably talented kid. He's not so fast, so he may slip.
How much would you buy in if the Dolphins' first 3 picks are Tua, Judy, and Gabe Davis?
I'm tattooing the Dolphins logo on my face.
Yeah, you'll be like that guy on Facebook on every ESPN post.
It's happening.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the guy, the Phillies guy, right?
No, he put every post. He's like Dolphins fan here, and it's like him doing a real ugly selfie.
I know the guy. Yes. I know.
I have him blocked on Facebook because I was just sick of seeing his posts.
That's incredible. All right, so the most college football thing you saw.
Oh, bro. Okay, so this has become like a funny tradition in college football where teams that have like an overwhelming lack of talent playing at like an overwhelmingly more talented team won't cut their grass the week before a home game so that they can slow down the opposing team. So Northwestern didn't cut their grass, and they've done it like consistently against Ohio State, I think. Posted like on Twitter about it, like trying to be cute with the little tape measure showing how long the grass got, and then they lost by 50 fucking points. So, maybe reconsider your strategies there, Northwestern.
College football and those little strategic things without
that is so stupid. That is so stupid.
So dumb. It's so dumb. I love it though. This is great about college football. For me,
Notre Dame did that a couple years during like the Reggie Bush era when they were playing USC, and Reggie Bush ran for like 200 yards. So it obviously doesn't work. Like
for me, I got to go back to Miami. And I felt bad for them. I did. But the Miami kids being forced to sing the alma mater after the game, after losing in overtime to Georgia Tech, which is like arguably the most embarrassing loss any of them have experienced in probably their entire lives. It was such a sad and hilarious video. Like, it's so funny. If you guys go follow Manny Navarro of The Athletic Miami, and he has the video, and it is so funny. Like, these kids are so – and I feel bad for them because I like a lot of the players on the Miami team. Like, Brevin Jordan, I love that freaking dude, and he's talented as hell. But, my God, it was so funny. They're all, like, literally crying and singing the alma mater, and it's just the state of Miami football. And then your onion hanger this week.
I don't really believe this one.
Yours. I like it.
So this was the only one I could kind of talk myself into because Kansas State's at home.
Yeah.
They can control the clock pretty well with the way that they run the ball, and their defense is sneaky kind of good.
Yeah.
So I got Kansas State beating Oklahoma. I think that's a noon game too, which never know.
I love it. And it would, obviously screw everything up for everybody.
It's that time of the year too where you see those kinds of upsets,
Yeah. No, and I just want to point out, I'm nervous about SMU at Houston.
On Thursday.
On Thursday at Houston. The good news for SMU is like it's Dallas to Houston, right? So it's like
right.
It's not like they're traveling.
And they're going to be wearing those incredible in-state Texas jerseys. So yeah. I mean, if they lose in those, like just throw this whole podcast.
What was even the point? Yeah, we might as well just stop doing it. But I'm nervous about that game on a short week on the road. You know, Houston's just a crazy wild card at this point because everything is going wrong.
It seems like they've given up, right?
Yeah, it does feel that way. So it's either going to be that SMU goes in there and rolls them by 40, or Houston could end up winning. So that's one thing. That's not my onion hanger, though. I'm not picking it. I'm still picking SMU. How about Michigan State beating Penn State? Michigan State owns Penn State. Michigan State's at home.
They do.
At home, 3:30 game. They've won 5 of the last 6 against Penn State. You and I have said, like, Penn State is definitely a top 10 team, but would you be shocked if they lost to Michigan State? I know Michigan State just got smacked by Wisconsin, literally 38-0.
Yeah.
So I would definitely still be surprised if they beat.
That's why it's an onion hanger, though, Jeremy.
But that's why it's an onion hanger. I'm saying the dominance continues, and Michigan State goes in to their home stadium and beats Penn State.
Final thing, did you see Mark D'Antonio saying something about how it's asinine to consider, like, say that maybe they should have hired some new offensive or like just because they didn't change their coaching staff, they just switched what everyone's jobs were, and somebody was like, "Do you think that was a bad idea?" And he's like, "It's asinine that you would even ask me that." So
when they got shut out against Wisconsin, shout out Mark.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, maybe you're the jackass, buddy.
Yeah, and actually, how about shout out Mark Richt, who survived a heart attack. Good for him. I hope he's doing well.
That tweet was incredible, by the way.
It was amazing. Yeah, he sent out a tweet saying he needs to stop eating so many cheese balls because he had sent out a tweet earlier before. He's one way or another.
Mark Richt's a great guy, dude.
Yeah, you could love Mark Richt, you could hate Mark Richt, but Mark Richt is a really.
How could you hate Mark Richt though? Like if I was in a bar and someone's like, "Man, fuck Mark Richt," I'd be like, "What the fuck's wrong with you, dude?"
Georgia fans and Miami fans who feel he just underachieved. Honestly,
yeah, but did he underachieve at Georgia? Really?
Starting to feel like
look
Kirby Smart's the same guy.
Kirby's doing the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Some of these programs just have ceilings, man.
Crazy
that's all I'm saying.
Expectations.